All right, listening in to White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt taking questions from reporters on a wide range of topics, and not the least of which, of course, is what came out of President Donald Trump's mouth regarding Gaza and the future of Gaza. Let's go live right now to CBS News contributor Robert Berger. He's live from Jerusalem. So we're only weeks into the new presidency. We're also only days into phase one of the ceasefire deal, the hostage release deal. If this plays out the way the president seems to be signaling, could that deal be in jeopardy, Robert?
I think so. It's definitely, this creates a problem for phase two of the ceasefire, which is only beginning to be negotiated this weekend. Right now, we're in phase one, about halfway through. 18 hostages have been released. And there's another hostage release set for Saturday. That's still on. But the second phase, which is the most difficult, which is supposed to see an end to the war and the release of the remaining 50 or 60 hostages, living and dead, that still has to be negotiated. The problem that this creates is that what does Hamas actually have to gain if the end game here is the end of Hamas rule in Gaza and the expulsion or displacement or transfer, if you will, of around 2 million Palestinians? Maybe Hamas will want to hang on to the only card it really has to play, which is the hostages. And then, yes, the ceasefire would be in jeopardy.
What are you hearing from hostage families? Families of hostages that still are not being released, even in phase one.
They're worried because, you know, like I said, this phase is going to see the release, if all goes well, of 33 hostages, about 25 of whom are alive. 8 are dead. They still haven't gotten back yet. But you've got another 50 or 60, including younger people like soldiers, who have been left for the second phase of the deal. The families of the hostages are very worried now that if this second phase doesn't go forward, then their loved ones may not get back.
So you are closer to that situation than we are. From where you are sitting right now in Israel, Jordan, Bahrain, Saudi Arabia are said to be working with Donald Trump and his administration on what to do with all of the people who would come out of Gaza. Do you get the sense that there is an active and positive movement with the president and those nations?
Not really. We heard just now in the White House briefing that the president has been in touch with those countries. And he keeps doubling down, saying they will take some refugees. Now, what we heard publicly today from Jordan, Egypt, and not only today, but in the past days, is the Palestinians have to remain on their own land. This is a principle that's really guided Arab policy for decades. Palestinians have to remain on their own land in a future state. But maybe behind the scenes, certainly behind the scenes, the U.S. is trying to broker some kind of a bigger Mideast deal. It's going to be very difficult, though, to overcome that obstacle.
And then we also heard from Caroline Leavitt saying that the president has not committed to putting U.S. boots on the ground, has not committed to the United States and dollars of the United States going into rebuilding Gaza. Are people buying that where you are?
Yeah, I don't think anybody's expecting to see American soldiers here in the Middle East anytime soon, certainly not in Gaza. I mean, that would be something, I think, even as she said, something further down the road that would be part of a bigger deal in coordination with the Arab states to rebuild Gaza. But still, this is a big obstacle, the concept of removing 2 million Palestinians out of Gaza. But maybe there could be some kind of compromise. I mean, that's what was just suggested in the White House briefing. This could be an opening position as the U.S. tries to make a deal.
Well, as Caroline Leavitt said, and these are her words, to preserve the leverage. We will see how that plays out. Robert, thank you so much for talking to us.